So, on this week of the Renegade Fitness podcast, this is episode 1. We've had Andrew Sayler on. So, Andrew Sayler is a certified physical preparedness specialist coach through Joe DeFranco's DeFranco Training Systems. He's also a Westside Barbell Special Strengths coach. So, he's a guy that will help individuals develop muscle, lose body fat, improve their energy levels, and develop healthier habits in the gym. And he believes that weight training is single-handedly the one form of exercise that everyone should be doing despite age, gender, goals, and everything else in between. On the podcast today, we've talked about how to build the habit of going to the gym. We're going to tell you what the number one supplement is that every gym goer should take. We're going to go over sleep optimization and how caffeine can affect that. And then we're going to be talking about how much protein you actually need to avoid snacking during the day and see gains in the gym. All right, let's get started. And you would call yourself, I guess, what, a personal trainer? Is that the best way to put it?
So yeah, I'm a personal trainer. I'm an online strength and nutrition coach. And I guess you can equate me to lifestyle management improvement too. But more so, my main objective is to help people, lose excessive body fat, become stronger, improve their dietary habits, and still be able to do that, but be able to navigate through their day-to-day lives, whether it's being a parent or being an entrepreneur or just, working with a busy schedule. I mean, it's definitely a lot of this is a lot simpler than people make it out to be, but it definitely does take, hard work, determination, all that. But, there's definitely, you need structure in place in order for you to, follow through with it, because there's going to be bumps in the road. I mean, there's going to be times you're going to be really frustrated, but you need to develop habits and having a strong foundation to fall back on when those times happen. So that way you just don't go completely off course.
And where did this all begin for you? What's your background in this? Like, how are you trained up, and what got you interested?
So I think it really started in high school. When we got to high school playing football, coaches got us into the weight room to talk about some things. And early on, I liked it, but I wasn't like hardcore committed just yet. And it wasn't until I went to pick up my program. I was going to start it next week. And I think you remember these guys, Matt Matro and Chris Veda. They were in the weight room. They were the seniors that year.
Yeah.
And it was like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just getting my workout sheet. And it's like, why aren't you lifting now? I'm like, oh, well, I think I'm going Christmas shopping, whatever I have to do. And it's just like, do you want to play next year? I'm like, yeah. Like, do you want to be good? Like, yeah. Like, your ass better be in the weight room at least 4 times a week. I'm like,
yeah,
okay. Like, I was just a really scared freshman at the time. So from that point on, I made it a point to get in the weight room, start training, start learning. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I started to see the development. I started to see the strength improvements. I started to see, people were complimenting me on how I was looking. I'm like, okay, like this is really, really cool. So that's where my interest really started. And then it just, carried it from me out.
Light bullying.
I wouldn't even call it bullying.
In the gym, yeah.
I mean, I remember that year the varsity team didn't do so well, and so the seniors on team really made it a point to change some things around. And then that following year, we turned, that program turned around. We made the playoffs that year, and it's just been, more consistent success from there.
That's right. Yep, I remember we had big dreams that year, and we were actually pretty bad. Well, until you were your sophomore year, my junior year, we were pretty good.
Yeah, that's when we started to notice things like turn around, because I think the seniors, that senior class started to take the off season stuff, at least from what I've heard, a lot more serious.
Right.
And we got more of a concrete program in place, and it just, a few of us, like, that was our hangout spot, was the weight room after school. Like, we go and we do our work. We tried a bunch of other shit too, and we just see what works for us. And it almost became like competition for us, like to see who can bench more, who can do a more power clean. And then again, competition breeds success. So I think a lot of that I still kind of keep an intrinsic motivation from that too.
You bring up an interesting point. Like, how important do you think community is, I guess, for people that are going to lift? So it's like I could see it one way where you're meeting your buddies in the gym because it can get lonely. You just keep going there and you're doing your bench, you're doing your squat, you're doing it all, or whatever your strength training regimen is, and it's always alone. So then it's like, I guess, working with somebody like yourself, whether it be online or in person in the gym or just meeting your friends there. I mean, that's got to be a motivating factor to, I would guess, bring out some more gains. I know when I work out with somebody, I just work out harder. I don't
Right.
I don't know exactly why, I just do.
Well, it definitely gives you, more outside affirmation of whether or not you're working hard enough and, just getting you to show up in the first place. Like if it's just you, it's like, okay, maybe I can just, take a day off or, oh, I can go here. But if you have a buddy or two expecting you to come, it's like, even if you aren't in the right mindset, you're still going to show up. And
Mhm.
that's why I tell people it's like, the majority of the time that you're doing these sessions, like you're not going to want to be there. Like that's true for me. Like I have to lift later in the evening, and
Mhm.
90% of the time that I go and train, I just want to go home. But after like the first warm up set or two, I'm into it. I'm like, okay, I'm here. Let's finish it out. And I'm always feeling that much better that I actually saw it through instead of just sandbagging it that day.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. How what does your training look like for yourself personally? Like, are you in the gym 7 days a week? Is there rest days in between? Is there cardio sprinkled in? Like, what does that look like?
So right now, I try to get at least 4 base days in the gym. It's normally predicated on an upper body, lower body split. So one day more lower body, one day upper, then switching off. That's just always worked well for me. So I continue to roll with that. And two of those days are going to be more on the heavier side. I'm a power lifter by nature, so I like lifting heavy with sets of like 3 to 6, maybe even 1 to 5.
Hmm.
And then the other days can be depending on what my focus is at that time. It could be more power oriented or it could be more hypertrophy oriented. Where the power, it's more sets, less weight, but you're moving it with as much intent as you can. Just because I like still envisioning myself as an athlete, so I like moving things, fast with a little bit more intent. I like just keeping some sort of explosiveness to me.
Hmm.
But then again, you have beach season coming up, or you want to try to pack on a little bit more muscle. Then you gear it more towards not as many sets, but sets of like 5 to 10, maybe even 15 sometimes. So it really just does depend on what my primary focus is. And then cardio wise, I try to get in an extra session or two, but it's more like I guess you can equate it to like the zone 2 cardio where it's like you're on the, you know, air bike, you're on a rower, you're doing like mild circuit training where you're lightly pushing the sled or doing body weight stuff. I mean, I don't do those things for the sake of me trying to lose more weight or trying to build muscle. I do that for just my overall general health. I was learning from a coach. His name's Jordan Side. He's actually brilliant when it comes to helping people with body fat loss and lifestyle habit change. I learned a lot from him, but he equated to like cardio training is very overrated when it comes to doing it to try to lose weight,
Hmm.
but it's very underrated for taking care of your overall health. Like improving cardiovascular system, improving recovery, improving blood flow circulation. So that's why I'm starting to put more of a focus into that, like 1 or 2 extra sessions. And then yeah, I like to have 2 days where it's just like, I chill out, rest, maybe take a little bit more naps here and there, maybe go for a walk too. But
Yeah.
um it's very low stress. And it's very important that you do keep your stress under control while you're going through this. Um, yeah, it's almost like you got to equate it to like if you have like a big cup and it's kind of like the amount of stress that you can control. You have your lifestyle stress, you have training stress, you have emotional stress. If that cup overflows, that's where people can get sick, people can get injured. because you're not letting your body from the inside out just heal.
Okay.
And it's important.
So then on the rest day is like, other than walking, pretty much low activity. Just letting.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. Um, and then I guess like, what are like what I mean, your demo for like people that you work with? Like, is that a wide range, or is it mostly like strength training athletes, or
What do
like
you mean,
who?
my target?
I guess like the people that you like to work with, or like the majority of the people that you do work with.
Mhm. So primary target is, I guess you can say, young to middle-aged, more in the male demographic.
Mm-hmm.
I just have always connected with them a lot better, but I've helped out a ton of females too. And it's, whether it's male or female, it's those that are, interested in becoming stronger and learning lifestyle habits that will help them with their aesthetic goals, but just learn how to be able to keep them forever.
Yeah.
The majority of the time I'm taking on people who have, they've gone through all the CrossFit classes, they've done the Orange Theory classes, they've done all the different diets, the juices, the detoxes, and they just have really nothing to show for it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my objective to at least show them that you don't have to spend 2 hours in a gym to get what you want. You don't have to do these crazy deprivation diets to see
Right.
the figure that you're looking for. Like, you can cut your gym time in half and really simplify your nutrition, and it's going to be much more sustainable for you. And within a matter of over time, not only are you going to like the way you look, you're going to probably look better than what you envisioned, and you have all the tools in your toolbox to be able to keep your results forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, you know it's unfortunate when I hear people, they go out to eat and whatever, and they say like, oh, like, I'm not allowed to have this, or I can't have that. It's like, you can have whatever you want.
Mm.
It all depends on, the knowledge you have, and you know what your caloric count is that day, and just having a mindset like, okay, if you do go off the rails a little bit that night, you can just, move on from the next day and just get right back on a horse.
Sure.
So
Certainly
I
don't
do
beat
think we
yourself up for it. Everyone slips up on things. So
Well, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and I think that aspect can hold a person back a lot more than, um, you know, splurging on a meal in itself.
mm-hmm.
Like, the constant beating up on oneself, I think, does a lot more harm than good, and that's what I try to convey. If a person doesn't lose weight one week and they're kind of discouraged, I'm like, okay, well, let's go over some other things. How are clothes fitting? How's your energy levels? How's your gym performance?
Sure.
How's your sleep? And 99% of the time, those four other things have improved, but the number on the scale that they want to see didn't. And I tell them,
Right.
listen, like, the number you see on the scale, how much you weigh, like, that's like the lowest on the totem pole for me to see if your program that I have for you is working. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to keep that in mind when pursuing something.
I've certainly seen people that the scale doesn't change, but they look way better. Like they look skinnier in certain areas of their body. They look more toned up, but they still weigh the same amount, and they think that they're failing
Yeah.
because the scale's not moving. But because we see the change in ourselves, it's like so gradual, but they don't realize like how far they've come over the last couple months.
Yeah. I think my biggest epiphany with that was I used to work at a small personal training private studio back in Westwood, New Jersey. And back in 2015, I remember training a woman. She was coming with us, I think, like for 3 months. And, when she does her weekly check ins, like, her weight loss was only like 5 pounds. And she was
Mm.
getting very discouraged. And I'm like, all right, well, let's try this. So we had a body fat calculator thing at our place. And I won't say it's the most accurate thing in the world, but it was just something else that we could measure. So we did that day. And within the 3 months, I think it equated to like she lost 5% of her body fat. And then her eyes kind of lit up like, what? And I'm like, okay, let's check something else. So we did before and after photos, and we pulled up her before photos. And then that's when like her jaw dropped and she was like, oh my God, I look so much different. I'm like, yeah, you do. Everything you were doing is working. And you
Yeah.
can't let an inanimate electronic device dictate whether or not something is working for you or not, because there's all these different things that play into the success of a program.
Right. I'm interested to know, like, I guess for so many people, and like, friends of mine or just acquaintances or just things that I've seen online, is so difficult for someone who does not consistently work out to start working out, start going to the gym and building that habit. Like, how do you help people with that? Or like, what do you suggest like new people do to not just one start to have some kind of program that you're running, but also like start making this a habit where you're going to go 3, 4, 5 times a week and actually stick with it over the long term?
So I think it's important to start making some sort of blueprint for yourself first. So if you've never stepped in front of a gym, if you've never really delved into like, the self-improvement world, I think
Mhm.
it's important to start kind of mapping out some realistic goals and expectations for yourself. So like if someone come up to me and is like, I want to lose 20 pounds this month, I'm like, that's not going to happen with my program. I'm sorry. um, but all that aside, like if you've never done anything like this before, okay, let's, I guess, grab a pen and paper out and just, okay, I could commit to, at least 2 days a week in a gym, maybe 3 or 4, like
Mhm.
set that first. Okay. Now when you go to the gym, we want to try to cover as much ground as we can, but not spend hours and hours in it. So I was geared towards having a person do more multi-joint compound lifts, like a squat pattern, a hinge pattern, like Romanian deadlift, or like back extension, some sort of pressing movement, like a bench press, overhead press, dumbbell press. I don't care. Something that's going to mimic a pressing motion. Some sort of pull, whether it be a row, a pull down, assisted pull-ups, like whichever one of those. Maybe a single leg component too, whether it be a lunge or a Bulgarian split squat, or even pushing a sled can count as a single leg.
Mhm.
And if you have the time for it, maybe even a carry. Like farmers carries are very good for just, I hate using the word functional, but there are a lot of times where we are carrying, our groceries from,
Yeah.
the car to the house, or, carrying bags or whatever. Like I do see a lot of real world application to doing heavier carries.
Right.
And honestly, if you do pick one of those, pick one exercise within those categories, do that 2 to 3 times a week, and then just gradually make each session per week like just a little bit harder for yourself.
Mhm.
You see a crazy amount of results just from doing that alone.
Mhm.
And again, this comes from a world of, we like to overcomplicate things, and we like to try to find like that one magic exercise that's going to change everything for us, and there isn't,
Sure.
despite
Yeah.
what you may see on social media or TikTok or anything like that. It's
Mhm.
just a matter of finding the moves that you want to work on based on the goals that you have, you know, setting realistic, setting the expectation for yourself that you are going to climb up on it over time. Make sure the form is good, and, you know, pushing yourself hard enough, but not too hard where you're just burning yourself out every time.
Mhm.
And, just scale that for, depending on when you want to reach your goal by, whether it be 8 weeks, 12 weeks, determine that for yourself, determine a finish line, make sure you're taking notes along the way, and then look back on it, see what you would, modify for your next cycle, and then just go from there. A lot of times this will just come down to you just going to the gym and just kind of figuring out and seeing what feels good for you, seeing what you enjoy.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's tough for me to give any sort of concrete, sophisticated answer when I've never haven't really had like a true conversation with somebody first, and then that helps me figure out, my plan for them.
Right. So like part of it, I guess, is like setting the person's expectation, because people who are new to it usually think that, oh, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna lose 20 pounds in a month, like you said, or like people who really crack me up are guys or girls who are like, yeah, like I would lift heavy, but like I don't want to get too big. And I'm like, dude,
My favorite.
it's gonna take like 10 years for you to get too big.
Well, my favorite answer for that was like, well, I don't want to get too bulky. I'm like, if you know the secret of getting bulky, let me know. I've been trying to pack on muscle for years now.
Yeah,
And I'll always say
that easy.
this, I always say this, like it's not the muscle that makes a person bulky, it's the body fat around it. And that will come down
Right.
to your diet. But lifting gives you the best tool in your toolbox to
Mhm.
lose the body fat that you're looking for or that you want to lose. And it's 1,000 times better than cardio. It's 1,000 times better than spending, however amount of money on plastic surgery or, cosmetic surgery to get rid of that. I mean, you know, the amount of benefits that you get from weight training alone from weight training is astronomical, and you'd be a fool not to do it, in my opinion.
Hmm. And as far as like creating that habit, it sounds like to me like you're trying to, I guess like it's like the lowest barrier of entry for somebody. So if you're going 0 days a week, if we can get this person going 2 days a week to start, and that's a worthwhile goal and easy enough for them to actually accomplish, and then we can kind of start building that up over time. Is that
Yep.
about right? Okay.
Because once they fall in love with the process, then that's when I'll hear like, hey, like, what are your opinions about me getting into for a third day? Or if I can go
Mhm.
4 days a week, like, is that possible for me? And I'm like, yeah, now that you're in the habit of going, that's the easy part now. Then we can start layering and doing more sophisticated things. But you know, I learned from, West Side Barbell was probably the first to teach me. It's like you always want to build a strong base or a strong foundation for you to build on top of. And they talk about it more from like a strength and conditioning perspective, but you really can apply that to anything that you're doing. So if you're trying to build habits, it's like you got to start with one thing, then you start another thing, then another thing. You try to do all those things at once, it's not really strong and stable, and that's when the house can
Yes.
crumble. Yeah, I've met people where whether or not they're inactive, smoking, not making the best dietary decisions, they're like, oh, I'm gonna quit smoking, I'm gonna do kickboxing 3 days a week, and I'm gonna cut out carbs and go from there. 3 weeks later,
Yeah.
they're right back into their habits because they never really learned you know when things don't go smoothly, they're going to want to fall back on those habits that have given them comfort in the beginning, and
Right.
they just try to change too much and it wasn't sustainable to them.
Man, I have failed at that so many times. I'm gonna
I have
start
too.
meditating and going to the gym, and I don't know, starting a gratitude journal and eating like this. You get like 3 days in, and then you just fail at all of them. So yeah, I think that's right. Just work on that one thing, get that under your belt for who knows, maybe a month, create that habit, and then add another habit
Exactly.
for the next month.
Exactly. Yeah, and the best thing for me to do with a person, it's like, if they need a complete overhaul with everything, I've worked with people on that. It's like, just start with one thing. Just
Yeah.
get here. Get to the gym first. Do that for a few weeks. Because then what happens is like they're feeling great with their gym performance.
Yeah.
Now they want their diet to couple that. And then that's another thing that they can build on because now they only have to think about going to the gym. They just do it because it's autonomous now.
Dude.
Okay,
Great
then
point.
okay, they're being what's that?
It's a great point.
Hmm. Yeah,
One
then that
one
feels sorry.
healthy change makes like you don't want to smoke cigarettes if you're going out for runs every day. Or like you don't
Right.
want to eat poorly like after you've gone to the gym all week because you're like, oh dude, like I'm feeling good this way. I don't want to, I don't want to take
Exactly.
a step backwards.
You get into a flow of it and now you want all your actions to replicate that. Because then it's like, okay, diet and training are good now, but your sleep's not great. Now let's work on sleep. And
Hmm.
now you're feeling that much better. And now it's like you start to want to layer all these other things in to keep maximizing your potential as to what you want to become. But if you try to do all that at once, it won't work. And
What are some
I've
things you
witnessed it
suggest for sleep?
too many times. What's that?
What are some things you suggest for sleep optimization?
So the first thing that comes to my mind is, work on managing and or limiting your caffeine consumption during the day. Now, I used to be pretty bad with it because I
Yeah.
was able to get away with it for a while. I mean, I'll have like a big Yeti thing of coffee in the morning, black coffee, but still coffee. Then an energy drink in the middle of the day,
Hmm.
then maybe another coffee in the afternoon. And, I was at a point where like I could have a cup of coffee right before I go to sleep and I can still sleep fine.
Wow.
But then with that in the past couple months, I started to notice I started to become more lethargic throughout the day. Like just, these mild tension headaches I would get out of random. And then it would take me a little bit longer to fall asleep because my mind was racing. And then when I wake up, like I just, you wake up, you just don't feel rested.
Hmm.
Like you don't feel like great. And like you don't need a whoop band to tell you if you got great sleep or not. Like you can tell when you wake up, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
I don't feel great. So I've been doing I cut off all caffeine 10 to 12 hours before I go to sleep.
Okay.
And but before that, I cut my caffeine consumption back in half.
Right.
So I got used to that. And then I started to limit it before, the 10 to 12 hour mark before bed.
Okay.
And it's weird. Like I feel more energetic, more alert. I feel more focused
Hmm.
even throughout like the evening times when I'm, working on my business. And my anxiety and stress seems to have cut back a lot too. Like I don't feel as anxious as I used to be.
Hmm.
Now, I love coffee. That won't change. And yeah, maybe there once in a while I will have like an afternoon coffee, just kind of, just to get out and about, because it's starting to become iced coffee season down here in the South. But those times now are not nearly as much as what it used to be. And I feel substantially better.
Would you, so 11 to 12 hours before bed, so you're pretty much done in the morning, what, like 10 in the morning, 11 in the morning?
Just about, yeah. Well,
Okay.
beforehand, I was having like an energy drink or coffee at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, dude. It's like that drug, caffeine, is just so, I guess people don't realize what they're doing. Like it's not like it's a serious drug, but like when you're doing it in the afternoons and evenings, you are certainly screwing up your sleep. And then because your sleep's not good, then you need more caffeine the next day.
Correct.
And it's
And
just
yeah, I mean, I was justified. It's like, well, I don't really drink that much. I don't do drugs, so what?
yeah,
Caffeine's my only vice in this world.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
now it's like, how much do I really need? And I really didn't. I honestly haven't missed it like at all. But like I said, I do enjoy the taste of coffee. Like like I can have decaf coffee and be fine.
Right. Yeah, me too, man. It's actually something I've scaled back with, and I've considered trying to get rid of it completely to see how I feel. But that tradition is so ingrained in me. And there's something very nice about the taste and the tradition and just getting up in the morning, maybe an hour after I get up, have that cup of coffee. But it does come with, anxiety or other kind of symptoms, as well as the energy and all the benefit that you get from it. But there is the downside to it. Do you suggest that people like go to bed and wake up at the same time every day? Is that another thing that you do for sleep?
Yeah, I mean, the best if you can get yourself in a consistent habit every single day, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, like, I think that falls in line with like the circadian rhythm aspect of it. But, the body likes consistency. It likes keeping itself on a regiment. And same with like your eating habits too, and when you train. Now, of course, it's never going to be perfect, whether or not, you get up in the middle of the night, maybe you just had a rough day, or if your kid's sick, or if you're sick, or if you're traveling somewhere. But more, if you can be as consistent as you can, falling asleep at the same time, waking up at the same time, like it's going to do your sleep a lot better too.
Right.
And that includes weekends too.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. Weekends come along, screw everything up. Um, and then I was interested to know, like, obviously this is like person to person. This is going to change, I would assume. But is there something for, as far as supplementation, is there something that every single person should just be using, no matter, whether they're strength training, I guess, or not? But I guess
Mhm.
specifically in strength training, is there something you would suggest for everybody?
So just one supplement that comes to mind that I would make a strong recommendation for is creatine monohydrate. Now,
Mhm.
again, I'm not a general practitioner or doctor, so always take what I say with a grain of salt. But there's just so much compounding evidence on the benefits of creatine monohydrate that it would just be stupid of me to not at least mention.
Yeah.
Now, the only time I would not recommend anyone take it if you had or if you have a pre-existing kidney condition
Yeah.
too, because but it can be a little harsh on the kidneys when it processes. But the amount of evidence on muscle recovery, muscle repair, you know,
Mhm.
better endurance in the gym, and just even the cognitive benefits. They're starting to see there's been a slight improvement in just a person's overall brain function and thinking skills and critical thinking skills just from creatine monohydrate. I mean, our body does produce it naturally, and we do get some of it through our foods, like our meats,
Mhm.
but not nearly enough to a point where if you supplemented it, you'll get that much more of a benefit. I mean, I've been taking creatine monohydrate for the past 9 years consistently, and it's definitely helped out my performance in the gym, my endurance, my thinking, and all that. And again, it's just the amount of evidence supporting that and the safety of it too.
Right.
It's just I'd be a fool to just ignore and just say, "Oh, you don't need that."
Yeah. 100%. Um, and then, I mean, I guess is that the only one?
I mean, if you really want to make sure that you're hitting all your bases as far as your micronutrients, you can look into like a standard multivitamin too, just to give
Right.
you a nice little blanket. Um, I mean, for me personally, I take a chelated magnesium supplement at night again because I'm working on improving my sleep.
Yeah.
Um, and I started to, or for the past couple of years, I've been taking something called Shilajit. I'm not sure if you ever heard of it.
Really? No, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's by Life. It's the raisin Shilajit tablets, and you've heard about it. Like it's the micronutrients you get from the runoffs in the Himalayan mountains, the minerals that may get lost in traditional farming methods from our plants. So this helps supplement it back. And I definitely feel a lot more energetic, but on a more grounded scale, like not like jittery, pre-workout scale. And there's been enough evidence and research showing that it can provide a person with a lot of benefit as far as their focus goes, their performance. It can help raise testosterone levels too. I haven't seen enough of it yet where I'm like putting my fist down on the table, like you need to take the supplement now. Because listen, at the end of the day, like if you're starting to get going with all this, like you'll get a ton of benefit just through making better nutrition choices as a whole. And supplements are just that. They're meant to supplement your life, not completely replace the things that you should be already ingesting.
Hmm.
So that's why it's like I'll never, tell a person working with me like, oh, you need to drop $100 plus a month on supplements.
Right.
It's only going to aid you once your other health habits are established well.
Is that something that you take daily, or I mean, is that something you cycle, or that doesn't matter? I know with creatine you can just take it. People were saying you got to cycle it, but I think that was incorrect. Um, and
Yeah,
then
I don't
Shilajit, is that right? Am I pronouncing that right?
chill legit. Yeah,
Okay. Is that something that you can just take, for years, or do you have to cycle that?
I don't see any benefit or non-benefit to cycling it. I mean, I guess it really does depends on what your financial situation is at the time or what you're looking to really do. I went off it for a while and then I just got myself back on it again once just to kind of see how I'm feeling. And yeah, I do notice a difference in my focus, in my mood.
Hmm.
My testosterone, as far as, the things that come with it, improving my sleep, my numbers in the gym, focus, libido, like all that have definitely improved the past couple months from just getting that reintroduced into my system again.
And
Um,
what
but yeah,
company
I
is
don't see
that from?
Mitolife, Mitolife.
Cool. I'm gonna check that out. I love all
They
that stuff.
sell out, yeah, they sell out quick, so you definitely want to,
Yep.
jump on it if you can.
Okay, sweet. Um, and then as far as like, and we've kind of touched on diet a little bit. Is there something? Is there a specific diet you recommend for people that are just starting out in the gym or getting into strength training, or is there specific diets that you would suggest avoiding, or just foods or any kind of or substances that people shouldn't avoid it entirely?
So the best type of diet that you can do is the one that you can see yourself staying to in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard so many people get so much benefit out of all these different diets, whether it be vegan diet, vegetarian, pescatarian, going keto, gluten free,
Yeah.
carnivore diet. I mean, all that. I mean, if you are going to be in the gym, weight training, like it is very important that you get your protein in. And I feel like just the people I start working with, like their levels of daily protein tend to be very low. Like they're not even getting half of what they should be getting in a day. So that's something that we work on as far as like, okay, we just gotta slowly elevate those levels up because the amount, the benefit of protein is just it's so much. Like again, it helps repair muscle tissue. It helps with satiety too. It helps keeps you fuller longer, so you don't get these cravings to want to snack on these foods that may not be as ideal to your performance. Um, and yeah, again, it's it'll help kind of gear you into eating some other things that are going to be more beneficial for you too. And it's important to get your roughage in too, whether it be vegetables, fruits, because that provides a lot of fiber that can help you with as far as like your gut bacteria goes and all that. And again, those foods are very high in volume. They'll help keep you fuller longer too. So you're not, again, prone to snacking on things that may not be as good for you as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's impossible to overeat those foods too. Like no one has ever gotten fat off eating, apples or watermelon or even bananas too with
Right.
that. But yeah, definitely make sure you get your protein in, make sure that you get enough daily fiber in. And honestly, like if you're really focused on those things, the carbohydrates and the fats will kind of fall into place where they should be for you and what you're doing.
And is there a number that people are trying to reach for their protein intake?
So as a rough rule, I try to help people get around a pound or a gram of protein per pound of their body weight.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they need most of that or not, I like to say because it'll at least help them get their levels up higher than what they already were getting.
Yeah.
So like if you have someone taking it, if you have like a 120-pound person and they're only getting 40 grams of protein in, and I kind of say try to hit this rough target, even if they get like 80, only like 80 or 90 grams, I know they're already getting they're getting a lot more benefit from just having that added protein in as opposed to just trying to hit that specific number. So when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to calories and protein, I like to have people hit more specific ranges, not so much just one number. And it goes with the person's calories too. Like if their daily calorie allotment is like 2,500 for them to lose weight consistently, I'll say, listen, try to eat between 2,300 and 2,600 calories. Because as long as you're falling within that range, you're staying consistent enough where you can see a sustainable progress in that. But it gives them flexibility where, like, if they go over or under a number a little bit, they're not going to freak out and realize that, they have to meet one specific number, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would assume like this is something I talk to my wife about all the time because we'll go out to dinner and you look at the portion sizes when you go out to dinner and the protein is like nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Whether you're getting like a sandwich or like she went out somewhere, I think she got like chicken pad thai or something like that. And she's like, "Where's the chicken?" And it was like, like you run the macros on like the average, it's like carbs extremely high, probably maybe then fats or it's basically all carbohydrate. And then until you're actually tracking your protein intake, I think people would be shocked that they're nowhere near a gram per pound of body weight.
And I'm not saying a gram of body weight is where everyone needs to be. I just think that if you're looking to really develop the muscle you want and looking to drop the body fat, at least trying to aim for a pound of protein per, or a gram of protein per pound of body weight,
Yeah.
can at least help get you a little bit closer there, even though if you're not necessarily hitting that specific number. And I just, this story comes to mind. I was working with a woman and she was, again, hasn't really lifted before, never really did it, naturally kind of skinny.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't, struggling in the gym a little bit. And then I talked to her about, do you know what your protein's like? And like, no, I haven't really tracked it, but I'm like, just track it one day for me, and let me know what it is. I'm kind of curious. And she's like, so after all I'm eating, I'm only getting 40 grams in a day. I'm like, I'm like, that's not enough.
Oh my.
So
no kidding.
then it was just a matter of, so when I have a person like that, I don't just tell them to automatically jump to a much higher number. I kind of, you want to kind of train your body to taper up to that. So we worked on from 40 grams a day per week to 60 grams. Do that for a while. Okay, let's work up to 70 grams. Let's work up to 80 grams a day. Let's work up to 90 grams a day, because going from only 40-ish grams of protein a day to try to reach like 100 grams, 150 grams a day is, that can upset your stomach a lot, just reintroducing all that into your system. So it's like you definitely want to get your body used to just that higher count.
Right. And that's another good example of like making that extreme change, like 0 days in the gym to 5 days in the gym. Like you're not
going to work.
It's not, yeah, it ain't gonna happen, man. But that's cool. That's awesome. And then as far as like people, as far as like people reaching their fitness goals, like what is like the number one thing that you've found that is preventing people from getting to where they want to be? Whether that's like not coming up, not building a plan, or it's their diet, or what have you noticed?
So I think the first thing that comes to mind is that people don't realize that this isn't a linear process. Like you're not just always going to see you're not going to see progress every week.
Mm-hmm.
And that even goes for people who are trying to gain weight and trying to gain muscle and gain strength. It's like you're going to have weeks, maybe even a month or so, that you're going to see very minimal progress, if any progress. And that's where people fall off the wheels and feel like what they're doing isn't working and it isn't worth it. And I reiterate, it's like doesn't mean just because you didn't see it in 1 week, that doesn't mean it's not working. It's definitely working.
Mm-hmm.
It's just again, it's like if you start from here, people think it's just going to go like that if they're trying from a weight loss perspective. It's not. It's going to go here and then, oh, okay, something happens, it's going to go up a little bit. Okay, then it'll go down, maybe kind of go up a little bit. And it's always like kind of like a heartbeat where it's like it's going to go kind of up, kind of down, up, down, maybe a hole for a little bit, down, up, down. But as a whole, if you look back over a 12 or 16-week period, if here and you're here, that's still progress, no matter if some weeks were higher or the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you're going through a period where you're not seeing results, that's where, again, you need to fall on your foundational habits that you established early on. Keep kind of putting the blinders on, keep doing the things that got you to the success that you have. And then it'll continue to happen. I'm not sure if you ever heard of Lyle McDonald before.
Mm-mm.
So he's been one of the leading experts in nutrition and how the body works when it comes to weight loss for a while. But he kind of coined a term called the whoosh effect.
Okay.
Where, person losing weight, and then they kind of hold for a while. They hold. Now, during that holding period, again, when we lose weight, it's a stressor we're putting on our system. And when we get stressed, we kind of, become a little bit more tighter, almost like our sympathetic nervous system's kind of turned on a lot. Like there's more tension.
Hmm.
And then as long as you're continuously, doing the caloric deficit work, the training, there's something called a whoosh. And then after like 3 to 4 weeks, the weight will just drop. Like
Oh,
some people have had 5 pound whooshes, 4 pound whooshes. Some people have 8.
oh wow.
And it's just, and at that time, you're still utilizing body fat and you're still losing body fat, but you just might be having some extra water retention due to, reasons, you know, for whatever you got going on that could be affecting the weight on the scale. And then after a period of time, it just gives. And then that's when people see that weight drop. But a lot of people don't get to that point because they're going through periods where like they don't see anything moving, they think it's not working. And that's where people just kind of throw their hands up and say, I give up.
Yeah, man. And it's like, it must just be human nature because people would do that in their own business, starting anything new. It's just very, what is it, like that 3 feet from gold? You ever hear that?
Yeah.
It's like that kind of thing. So it's definitely common in the gym. I guess like everything sort of comes down to people want things instantly, like that instant gratification. Just understanding that that's not going to happen. Um, being understanding that these results are going to be gradual, and then enjoying the process of getting there, and then working with somebody who knows how to lead you in the you're like a weight loss or strength training like liaison, you know, come on, hold your hand and I'm going to walk you to where you want to be.
Yeah. I tell people all that it's like, I'll help you get to the water. You got to drink it. If you don't
Right.
drink the water, what's the point of me getting you there?
Yeah.
So it's just about, being a coach. It's just helping give your clients and whoever's entrusting their help with you the right tools that they need to set them up for the long term for their success. Because eventually, time, all the people that work with me, it's I don't expect them to stay with me forever. I don't want that either. I would want them at some point in time to have enough confidence where if they learned all they could, it's like, hey, listen, like I've learned so much for you. I'm ready to take this out on my own. And like, that's how I know I did my job.
Right.
And that makes me 1,000 times happier knowing that than a person who feels like they need me to help kind of, keep them on course with something, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. So if people that are trying to get to the gym for the first time, or they're athletes who are trying to get to the next level, or guys are trying to get their summer body and they want to get in touch with how do they do that? Where can they find you?
So they can go onto my Instagram. It's at Sayler Strength Systems. So it's Sayler and then Strength Systems.
Hmm.
So I do technically have a website. It is under construction. I kind of had a little falling out with my website developer, so I'm looking to get that corrected. But
Okay.
if right now I'm just using my IG, and I can be found on LinkedIn too, Andrew Sayler. Twitter is Sayler Strength because I ran out of room for my handle. But yeah,
Yeah.
Instagram's probably the best way to connect with me.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. And I'll put that in the show notes so people can click on that and go check you out and hopefully start a conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on the show. I feel like, this is a great setup, and, as long as you keep being consistent, just like with weight loss with it, like this will keep
No,
blowing
man.
up.
That's the trick. That's the trick. Just be consistent, right? If you never give up, then you can't. Yeah, if you never give up, man, you're never going to be let down. So
Yeah, well, let's, help each other out. Rams run together.
that's right. Yeah. It's really cool to connect with you after all these years, and to see how you've just continued right out of high school on the same path. So it's super
Well,
neat.
you have too. I mean, you're doing this, and you're also, you're still doing your band work, the Northerners, right?
Yep. Yeah, I'm working on a single in the studio as we speak. So
That's
got
awesome.
that going on. I'm trying to balance the music and the love for fitness and nutrition and diet and health and all that stuff. So
Well, they work together. You keep your mind and spirit, you keep your body and mind right with the training and all that. It's going to help show in your music too. So as long as you keep taking care of yourself, that will only continue to grow too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thanks for coming
I
on. And
appreciate
I think this was a good conversation. I think this is going to be
this.
helpful for sure.
This is a great conversation, man. Thank you for having me on. I feel honored.
Well, sweet. I'm going to, I don't know how to stop recording this. Okay, stop recording.